Why is Sony releasing its PlayStation exclusives on PC? You might never have thought PlayStation games would come to PC, but they have, and more are coming. So what's going on? For this, we have to look back, and that's with another company that did it first. That's Xbox. 2015. It was 2 years after the launch of the Xbox One. The PlayStation 4 sales were significantly eclipsing the Xbox One sales. Microsoft was also being criticized by the Master Race community, who were saying that it wasn't providing enough support for PC gamers. They wanted more first-party games. So Phil Spencer, he knew that the business needed to be revised to help the ailing Xbox platform and also the Windows 10 gaming platform. And his solution, revealed in 2016, was Xbox Play Anywhere. This was essentially a variation of cross-buy. If a consumer was to purchase an Xbox game, they would also get a license to play the same game on PC. So Microsoft was committing to bringing all its Xbox games, its first-party Xbox games, day and date to the PC market. But to Microsoft, it didn't matter which platform it sold its games on, because it owned both of them. It owns Xbox, it owns Windows. Whichever platform an Xbox game sells on, Microsoft is winning. Why didn't Sony bring its games to PC earlier? Well, Sony's situation is very different from Microsoft's. For 7.5 years, it was dominating the 8th generation of consoles. Its PS4 console was the leading platform, the leading home games console, and really its unique selling point has been its AAA quality exclusives. And these games, these unique games, have only ever been available on PS4, and they probably drove sales of the platform as well. So for sure in the 2010s, Sony's executives, Sony's accountants, they would have evaluated whether it was worth releasing its exclusive games onto PC, because if it wasn't, it would be leaving money on the table. The danger of releasing PlayStation games on PC is that it erodes the value and the uniqueness of the console itself. And this could of course affect console sales. Why buy a PS4 console if you can get those unique games that you really want to play on PC? So that's why this likely didn't happen in the 2010s. However, the market is evolving, and clearly Sony has re-evaluated its decision. But what made it change its mind and experiment with releasing its first game on PC? Two different things. Firstly, PlayStation Now. This is Sony's games streaming service that's available on PS4 and PS5 and also available on PC via a web browser. Recently, Sony released the chart of its most played games on PlayStation Now. And what was interesting about it is that it differentiated the games played on PlayStation consoles from those played on PC. And if you have a look at the titles, that there are some differences in the games being played. So PlayStation exclusives are played more by PC users, and this is likely because PlayStation console owners would have already had access to them either through previously buying them or through a subscription service, and so they would have likely played these big games before. But for PC owners who don't own a PlayStation console, it's given them their first opportunity to play these PlayStation games. For Sony, it would have shown them that PC gamers have an appetite for PlayStation exclusives. Secondly, there is a big change in how video games are consumed across world markets. So if you're like me and you live in Europe, USA, the Middle East, you're most likely to be comfortable with home console gaming, where you buy a games console, you buy a game, you put it in your machine and you play and you enjoy it. So for many of us, this is a traditional way of playing games and we become sentimentally attached to it. This is not the same for everybody because the market is growing and people in different countries, they experience video games in different ways. So in these markets, PC gaming is more established than console gaming. China is a massive PC gaming community with PC cafes everywhere. Russia is a massive PC gaming community, and Microsoft chose Russia to release a test version of Halo PC. And clearly Sony is taking notice of this because the CEO of PlayStation, Jim Ryan, he said that China has a massive free-to-play market. Beyond this, there is phenomenal growth in the mobile market. And in Western markets, it's easy for us to be disparaging of mobile gaming. That's because we associate the games with pay-to-win mechanics, which many of them do use. So in the Indian subcontinent and Africa as well, not everybody has a big 4K TV. Not everybody can afford a console. By market share, almost nobody does. That's because most people's only computer, so to speak, is the smartphone. So Sony has to ensure that it can support not just the markets that we are in, the markets that we're familiar with, but also the growing markets all around the world, because everybody is a potential customer. Everybody can potentially use PlayStation products in one form or another, as long as Sony is there to provide them for them. So this is why Jim Ryan has committed Sony to growing PlayStation, both with mobile and with PC. So the first PlayStation Studios game we saw released on PC was Horizon Zero Dawn, which came out in August 2020. And this was definitely a case of Sony dipping its toe to find out what sort of reaction there would be. There was some negative reaction. Some of it was unconstructive. Some of it was very immature and abusive. There were even some fake spoof videos of people smashing up their PlayStations. And this particular angle was seized on by the video games media, particularly those who are invested in the format wars. Because many in the closed circle games media did try to shut down any legitimate complaints by saying that anybody who had expressed an opinion was basically being a fanboy. The thing is, there is room for people to ask what makes PlayStation a compelling console? What is it that makes it unique, that makes people want to buy it? And this question is a relevant question to ask, and when it's expressed maturely, it is basically a comment on whether Sony is adopting the right business strategy. And as gamers, as fans, we invest our free time in these consoles that we enjoy playing, these consoles that we prefer to play, and with the companies that are behind them and the personalities behind them. And it's our emotional investment in these companies that makes us turn up for their E3 events, for their press events, so that we can allow them to sell to us. And so if we do all of this, then we absolutely have the right to discuss in a mature way whether the companies are adopting the right business strategy. And despite some technical issues with the PC conversion of Horizon Zero Dawn, it was enough of a success for Jim Ryan to commit to releasing more PlayStation games on PC. He said in his GQ interview, game development had got more expensive, meaning it needs to make a bigger return, and releasing games on PC can help with that. And Jim Ryan told Japanese games magazine Famitsu, "We are also happy with our efforts to provide our IP to PCs, although it's still in its infancy, and we look forward to working with Nixes to help with that." So by Ryan talking about it being in its infancy, clearly he sees releasing games on PC to be a big growth area in the future. But if a game like Spider-Man is a genuine system seller, then is Sony cutting its own throat by offering the game to the PC platform? Sony is definitely cognizant of that. Herman Hulst, the head of PlayStation Studios, he did say or allude to the games would be released first on PlayStation and approximately 2 years later on PC. And it's more than enough time for anybody on console to have time to go out and buy it without the PC release cannibalizing console sales. So let's look at all the benefits it brings to Sony. PS5 console owners will effectively get a timed exclusive for around 2 years. Then, for very little outlay, it will make an additional source of revenue from releasing the game on PC. By releasing games on PC, it can increase exposure of the franchise to new customers in the PC community. So for many people who bought Horizon Zero Dawn on PC and who love the game, they may now be tempted to get a PS5 to play the upcoming sequel. The PC edition can become available on many different storefronts, PC storefronts, including Steam, Epic Games, potentially GOG, and even Google Stadia. The video games market is changing. Sony is positioning PlayStation for maximum growth in the industry, so that wherever you live in the world, whatever your background, you can have access to the greatest video games.